Welcome to Football Game Plan's Power Rankings here on the Game Plus Network. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. It's week 14 in the NFL. The college football season, the regular season is starting to wrap up, and we're in conference championship season. But as we do on this show, we talk power rankings, we talk best bets, and all other sorts of rankings on this particular show. But today, we'll start in the NFL week 14 with our power rankings, starting with number 32. And there's a shakeup in our top 5. At number 32 are the New York Giants. This is a team that has lost 8 straight games, and I swear it doesn't seem like they've lost that many games in a row, but a lot of it can be attributed to the fact that their rookie quarterback, Daniel Jones, has issues in protecting the football, and as soon as he does that, protect that football, I guarantee the Giants will start winning football games. You look at number 31, the Cincinnati Bengals, getting their first victory on the season last weekend against the New York Jets. The reason why, they put Andy Dalton back into the lineup. He was able to stabilize his offense, got them on the right track, got them a little bit more productive, and they were able to get a very good win against a Jets team that had won 3 straight games. Now, looking at teams 26 through 30, you look at the Arizona Cardinals and Detroit Lions, 2 teams that tied in week 1. Both are on ridiculous losing streaks down the backstretch of this season. 3-8-1 collectively on the season for both teams. They have to find ways to get back on the winning track. So do the Atlanta Falcons. They had a nice little spark when they were on a 2-game winning streak with victories against both Carolina and New Orleans, but lost 2 straight games to both the Saints and also to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have to find a way to get back to their winning ways. When you look at the Miami Dolphins knocking off the Philadelphia Eagles in impressive fashion, they were down 14, came back in that ball game and put up 37 points offensively. You look at those wide receivers, Devontae Parker. You also look at tight end Mike Gesicki. They're doing a great job of vibing with quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, who has expanded this offense and got these guys playing a little bit better in the passing game. So does Dwayne Haskins and the Washington Redskins, who are also on their 2-game winning streak, having beaten the Lions and last weekend knocking out a very tough Panthers football team. Dwayne Haskins is making significant strides each and every game, but the big reason why they were able to win these last 2 matchups was due to their defense and their run game, both of which are starting to hit its stride toward the back end of the season. Let's move on to teams 21 through 25. The Jacksonville Jaguars made a quarterback switch, going back to Gardner Minshew, having benched Nick Foles, who was playing ineffective football the last 3 games. The Jets, we talked about, lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. They have now lost to both the Bengals and Dolphins, both of whom were winless when they met up with Gang Green. And the Chargers just find new and creative ways to lose, losing a tough one last week to the Denver Broncos on the last-second field goal. The Carolina Panthers just made a coaching move, firing longtime head coach Ron Rivera. 9 years with his ball club, 5-7 on the season, had the Panthers in the Super Bowl in 2015, but things hadn't worked out this year for them. They didn't play with Cam Newton, and that to me was a big detriment to their long-term success. They started out really well, but you can't depend on Kyle Allen, and unfortunately, a guy like Ron Rivera shouldered a lot of the blame because of the situation going on with their season. But over in Denver, you look at Drew Lock and what he was able to do in his first start in the NFL. Played really well, led them down the field to get the game-winning points against Los Angeles, and he looks promising in his starting role along with a lot of weapons on the outside. So keep an eye on Lock moving forward. He could have the Broncos playing winning football down the stretch. Moving on to teams 16 through 20, there's a ton of questions, a lot of inconsistency here with these squads. You look at the Indianapolis Colts, who look to be the class of the division, but now have lost a couple of games in a row. Jacoby Brissett is playing inconsistent football, and they have to find a way to get back on a winning track. You also look at the Oakland Raiders, same boat as Indy was a few weeks ago. We're talking about the Raiders as a top 10 team. They've lost a couple of games in a row, have looked flat in doing so, especially their blowout loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. So teams in this area, like the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off of that bad loss to Miami, have to find ways to get it going once again. So do the Cleveland Browns. And man, you talk about a team that has the leading rusher in the NFL and Nick Chubb, and they haven't found a way to consistently get him the football. To me, that has to change down the stretch if they want to finish with a winning season. And shout out to Jameis Winston and that Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team. They're continuing to fight, they're continuing to battle, and they find themselves in position to play some good football down the stretch of the season. They're 5-7 right now with an outside chance of getting to 9-7 before it's all said and done. Checking in with teams 11 through 15, and the Los Angeles Rams blew out the Arizona Cardinals last weekend in the desert, getting their record up to 7-5. And the Chicago Bears are another football team that you want to keep an eye on down the stretch, as they were able to get a win this past Thanksgiving against the Detroit Lions, and the Dallas Cowboys play the Chicago Bears this Thursday, they got to find a way to get a win to get their playoff hopes strengthened and put a stranglehold on the NFC East division title. You look at Pittsburgh, you talk about a team that was left for dead earlier in the year with all of the injuries and all of the inconsistencies, but Mike Tomlin has proven time and time again he is one of the best coaches in the NFL and definitely should garner some Coach of the Year honors this season with the way his Steelers are balling out there on the field. And the Tennessee Titans have done a great job themselves. Once they inserted Ryan Tannehill in the lineup, the Titans are 5-1. They're playing great offense, great defense, and most importantly, they're beating teams with great special teams. So they're winning in all three facets of the game. Shout out to Tennessee for turning their season around and now are on the precipice of maybe a division title or at worst, a wild card berth in the playoffs. And now we enter the top 10. You look at the Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers, both in the NFC North. Huge games this weekend. Both are still really good football teams. And you like how Kansas City's defense has started to turn the corner. This is a team now that has strong defense to go with their explosive offense. Keep an eye on KC down the stretch of the season. But the Buffalo Bills are playing very good complementary football. I spoke about this on Thanksgiving Day. When you look at Josh Allen and how he played the position, he was controlling the entire Cowboys defense with how he was back there distributing the football in the pocket in the passing game, but also controlling them with his running ability. So Buffalo is winning a lot of the same ways that Baltimore is winning, which makes them one of the more dangerous teams down the rest of the way of the season. And they have a huge matchup this upcoming week against those said Baltimore Ravens. The Houston Texans got a great win against the New England Patriots. Their defense has gotten better, more in particular their secondary. So Houston now has a formidable defense to go with one of the best offenses to watch on game day with Deshaun Watson. And wrapping up our list with our top 5, told you there was a shakeup in the top 5. New England drops down to number 5. 3 NFC teams in the mix at 2, 3, and 4. Big matchup this weekend between Baltimore and Buffalo, but the Ravens are playing fantastic football, and they are clearly the best team in the NFL right now, being led by the clear frontrunner for the MVP award in LaMarvelous Jackson. We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plan's Power Rankings on the Game Plus Network.
I'm Alex Marinoni, offering you Football Game Plan's best bets for Week 14. We start with an NFC rematch between the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. The last time these two teams went up against each other, it was all Atlanta, taking the game 29-3. This time they will be the home team, and they will be facing a Carolina team that just got ran all over on by the Redskins. The Falcons match up well with the Panthers team, and now being the home team should have the extra advantage. Seeing the line set at -2.5 for Atlanta, the best bet here would be for them to cover. In Buffalo, we have arguably the game of the week between the Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. Both of these offenses truly run through their quarterback, with both showing the ability to run and throw the ball. The defenses on both sides have really stepped up, specifically the Ravens' D, since Buffalo's has been good all year. Buffalo has had an advantage playing at home and getting the extra couple of days of rest as they played on Thanksgiving a week before. Now, the over-under is set at 43.5, and depending on the elements, this could be a good bet. If we have clear skies for this game, then the best bet here would be to take the over. Out in Cleveland, we have an AFC North matchup between the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals are coming off their first win of the year as they took down a red-hot Jets team. The Browns are coming off one of their toughest losses of the year, losing in Pittsburgh to third-string quarterback Devlin Hodges. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that I think the Browns are trending way down and the Bengals are trending way up, where I would say the Browns are going to lose this game. But seeing the spread set at +8.5 for the Bengals, I think that is way too high. If Andy Dalton is quarterbacking this game, I like the Bengals to keep this one close with a chance to win. Take the Bengals to cover this spread. Up in Lambeau Field, we have the Redskins taking on the Packers. This is a game that on paper could get ugly fast. With the Packers just one game up on the Vikings for the division, are playing for home field advantage in the NFC and will need to take care of games like this to do that. In other words, expect Rodgers and company's best this week against the inferior opponent. Yes, the Redskins have rolled off 2 straight wins, but they have been against middling teams in the NFC. Now, having to travel up north in what could be potentially hazardous conditions, expect this game to be possibly get ugly. -13 is quite a spread, but the best bet here would be for the Packers to cover that. The Detroit Lions are coming off a heartbreaker on Thanksgiving Day and get the chance to play one of the best in the NFC in the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings nearly pulled off quite the comeback against the Seahawks on Monday night and showed that they can play with any team. For the Lions, they will be rolling out quarterback number 3 in David Blau, who looks pretty good considering a short week and dealing with a tough Bears defense. Having the extra time from Thursday to prepare will help, and also catching the Vikings on a short week is nice. But ultimately, the better team will win, especially since the Vikings need this to keep pace with the Packers. Being a division game, I do like the Lions to hang around. Seeing the plus 13 spread, I like the Lions to cover that here. In another game of the week-like game, we have the Saints playing host to the 49ers. Two 10-2 teams battling out for what could be home field advantage. I expect this to be a great one. The 49ers have been incredibly impressive this year, and the Saints are doing what many expected. Drew Brees will have to be vintage Drew Brees in order to get the job done in this one, as he faces a 49ers defense who can not only get after the quarterback, but take one back the other way. At home, though, I like the advantage the Saints have there and love the matchup between the 49ers rushing attack against the Saints rushing defense. Ultimately, it will take a lot for the 49ers offense to keep up, and I expect the Saints to take this game. With a minus 2.5 spread, I like this to be at least a field goal game in favor of New Orleans. At MetLife Stadium, we have the Jets seeking revenge on the Miami Dolphins. The Jets are coming off a week where they allowed the winless Bengals their first win, and the Dolphins took a 14-point deficit to the win-needy Eagles and turned it into a win. I look for this to be a very evenly matched contest with the Dolphins team showing an edge, as they were able to do enough to take it to the Jets already this season. Yes, the Jets have more talent on this team, but they are really hurting up front, and last game against the Bengals, they were able to get to Darnold often. With Darnold running for his life last week, we could be seeing something similar here. Right now, the spread is set at plus 5.5 for the Dolphins. I like them to cover the spread and even potentially win this one outright. Down in Tampa, we have the Buccaneers playing host to the Indianapolis Colts. A couple weeks ago, you would have never guessed that these two teams would be just a game difference. The Colts have struggled these last few weeks between the injuries and sloppy play, have not been able to take a stranglehold in the division. The Bucs, on the other hand, although at 5-7, have shown that they can play with any team. Their issue has been and always will be the turnover problem that they have. Up against a tough Indy defense, I can see this being a problem this week. In this game, though, they are underdogs and are hungry for a win. The money line is now set at plus 130. I like the Colts to take it. This was Football Game Plan's best bets for Week 14. I'm Alex Marinoni.
I'm Troy Anthony with your Football Game Plan, NFL Week 14 Best Bets. In our first matchup, we have the Dallas Cowboys heading to Chicago to take on the Bears. These are two teams who played last Thursday on Thanksgiving. I'm taking the Cowboys with the spread here at -3. The Cowboys dropped a tough one to the Buffalo Bills, and the Bears just squeaked out a game against the Detroit Lions with their third-string quarterback. I'm taking the Cowboys here with the spread at -3. Next up, we have the Houston Texans hosting the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are also on their third-string quarterback. Granted, it was high draft pick Drew Lock. Houston is reeling right now, though, especially after that huge win against the New England Patriots last week. I'm taking the Houston Texans on the money line in this one, -357. The Los Angeles Chargers keep finding ways to lose games. Can I take them this week on the money line against Jacksonville Jaguars? No. But I will take the Jaguars +3. I like them to cover the spread. Nick Foles got pulled last week for Minshew magic, and that's exactly what it was. Minshew put together a couple of good drives. It was just too late in the game for them to come back. So Jacksonville with the spread is good money in my bank at +3. Next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs heading to take on the New England Patriots. We know that Chiefs offense is explosive, and that Patriots defense is electric. I don't know if the Patriots offense can keep up, though. So I'm going to take the Chiefs here on the money line at +133. Next up, we have two teams fighting for that wild card spot in the AFC. We have the Oakland Raiders hosting the Tennessee Titans. The Raiders just laid two clunkers back-to-back against the Jets and the Chiefs. Tennessee has been on fire since switching to Tannehill. I'm going to go with the Raiders here at +123. They need it bad. They've been on a down streak, and Tennessee has been hot fire recently. I look for things to even out in this one. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. That Steelers defense has been good since trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I like the Steelers here at -2.5. I think that they can get to Kyler Murray enough to make this a good win for the Steelers. In our Sunday night matchup, we have the Seattle Seahawks heading to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson, baby, he's been getting it done for them. And I don't know if the Rams can stop him. So I'm going to take the Seahawks to win this divisional matchup at -118. And finally, in our Monday night matchup, we have another divisional game here. The Philadelphia Eagles hosting the New York Giants. The Eagles just can't seem to get out of their way recently. Cowboys dropped a huge one to the Bills on Thanksgiving. The Eagles dropped a bigger one to the Miami Dolphins after holding a 14-point lead. The Eagles need this one if they're going to stay alive in the NFC East, so I'm going to take the Eagles here on the money line at minus 360. With your football game plan, NFL Week 14 best bets, I'm Troy Anthony.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, Art, Life, Entertainment, nesbyphipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grindidoutfitness.com and download the app. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, Investment, Retirement, Security. Stewardship Credit. Financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. You know, people have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with the huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, you know, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
I love football. I cannot get enough of football. I watch it on every level.
The emotional release, you know, whether it's an exciting play that gets you all jacked up and juiced, or whether it's the fact that you're able to pour everything you have, whatever frustration you had that week, you can put into that first kickoff coverage, that first block that you have, whatever it might be.
And I couldn't think of anything better to do to fill that void that you have as a football player than to get into coaching.
You get a chance to release a lot of emotion that you otherwise have no place to release. There's nothing else like that.
Again, the relationships you build and the people you're around and watching the guys compete, not just on the football field, but in life after they get done playing. It's just an amazing game.
The college football playoffs released their rankings this week, and number one is no surprise. The Ohio State Buckeyes at 12-0 definitely deserve that top spot. At number two, you have LSU, and when you look at Ohio State versus LSU in a potential championship game matchup, that's going to be strength versus strength. The strength of the LSU offense against the strength of that Buckeye defense, but I think 1 and 2 are fair where they put them. LSU at number 2, it makes a lot of sense because their defense is still a slight question mark, although they play better down the back half of the season. You also look at number 3, the Clemson Tigers. You talk about a team that was left for dead in the middle of the season, despite them being the reigning national champions. Not a lot of people took them seriously as to what they were able to do during the beginning part of the year, but once that initial college football playoff rankings came out, they were upset. They went on a tear, started blowing out everyone in their wake, and that's why they're number 3. I definitely agree with that. Number 4, I think, is a placeholder. Georgia, to me, is not the 4th best team in college football. This is a spot that's going to be reserved for number 5 or number 6, and we'll talk about them right now. You talk about the Utah Utes, who could potentially blow the doors off Oregon in a Pac-12 championship game, and if they do that, they will be number 4. Or Oklahoma sitting at number 6. If they beat the brakes off of Baylor in the Big 12 championship game, that spot could be held for Oklahoma, because I think we all can agree LSU will beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, leaving Georgia out of the top 4 and leaving that door open for either Oklahoma or Utah. Now, it's going to be up to the Utes to win more impressively, because their strength of schedule isn't as strong as Oklahoma, especially out of conference. So Oklahoma can just beat Baylor, while I believe that the Utah Utes will have to beat the brakes off of Oregon. If they do that, they move up to number 4. Or if they play a close game, I think the committee will reward Oklahoma with a move up 2 spots to number 4, because Baylor is a very good team. Now, all things can go haywire. If Baylor beats Oklahoma and Utah wins a close game, then we could see the Baylor Bears jump up into that spot and get to number 4. So a lot to still be discussed this weekend, but man, what a great slate of championship games that means something this upcoming Saturday. So that's it for this week's episode of Football Game Plan's Power Rankings here on the Game Plus Network. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network, located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also on iTunes, subscribe to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. And keep it locked here on the Game Plus Network all week long for our NFL All 32 show and our College Football Tailgate show, Thursday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Check with your cable provider for channel listings.